This is still Signature Morning. Don't forget you can follow us on our social media handles at Signature TV Officials on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And go to YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Signature TV. Leave it there where you can get all of the latest news as it comes. Now we're moving over to we have an honorable commissioner in the house with us today. We want to discuss. There is the brewing protest, so we want to find out the stand of the government, especially of Enugu State, as it concerns the protest. And we also learned that some bags of rice have been disbursed to the state. So we want to know. This is the Commissioner for Information and Communication, Honorable Aka Ezaka. You're welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful to be here. The word honorable is not what I go because I'm still a broadcaster. Broadcasters don't have titles, and so I'm happy to be here.
All right. So diving straight, there is this brewing protest, and yes, the government. We've heard Tinubu say over that the president that they want to address the issue and whatnot. Now we're asking, what's the state's Enugu State in particular, what's their stake on the matter?
Well, it is unfortunate that things have come up to this stage where protestation is becoming an option. Many people believe that protest is a solution to the problems that we have in Nigeria. The question now is it going to happen or not, to be or not to be? That is the question. It has been outlined that there will be a protest this August. Enugu State may not experience it. There are so many reasons for that. And even if we're going to experience it, people will understand that we have gone so far in terms of developing the state, in terms of making strategic arrangements for a lot of palliatives that could have gone into the system from Enugu State. Why I'm saying that is that this government, our people have appreciated it. They have come to understand that this government is a purposeful government, a government that is geared towards alleviating poverty. His Excellency, the Governor of Enugu State, Dr. Peter Ndubisimba, made it clear that his intention is to drive the economy from the GDP of $4.4 billion to $30 billion. The meaning of that is that the economy of the state will become more robust. It will get to everybody's feeling. That's why the primary things to be done in government is being done. The primary things are being done to make sure that the economy begins to wake up, and it is waking up gradually. Things are difficult all through in Nigeria, but the government constructing roads, the government ensuring that people get the electricity, people get water and other things. These are the things that could alleviate the sufferance of the people so that people can go into investments and so on. On the part of Enugu State, His Excellency has, without going back to the campaigns, he promised to make water available. Water has come to Enugu City, for instance, after 180 days. What now the problem is making sure it gets to the appropriate places through reticulation and so on. These are the things that we have mapped out. The roads are being constructed. I'm sure that you will also be grateful if this road coming to your station is tarred and so on. But there are plans to make sure that almost every road in Enugu State is tarred. There are so many roads that have been completed, we can't count it off our fingers. Then, after all these, His Excellency also realized that there are things to be done. The welfare of the workers is very important. And along the line, even before now, he promised that whatever is agreed, he was likely going to pay it if it doesn't get out of hand. Now, the federal government has said 70,000 minimum wage. If the state will consider it, our state is almost at the lowest rung of economic power when it comes to what comes into the state. Unlike Lagos, Rivers, Edo, and some other states. In the light of that, you will see that Enugu State will do its part to ensure that the welfare of the citizens are guaranteed.
Is the government committed to 70,000 naira minimum wage?
I wouldn't say that now, but we will consider it very, very well to make sure that whatever we can pay, especially in relation to other states, we must pay. We are interested in we're interested in making sure lifting our people out of poverty. So we won't be going down. So
but are you at liberty to decide
Yes.
whether to pay 70,000 minimum wage if it has been signed into law?
It is still an ongoing discussion. It's a going concern for the governors. They are discussing it. So some governors have not even started paying the minimum wage that we had in the past.
30,000 naira. Yeah.
You know, and just this morning I heard that one governor had, I wouldn't like to mention him, had increased his former, is it 7,000 to 15,000 naira for the minimum wage. That's not the decision that people should look forward to. But let us give chance for the governors to have their discussions. After it, Enugu State will not be the worst. Certainly Enugu State could be the best.
So there will be a negotiation between the government of Enugu State and the workers in Enugu, or is that governors in terms of governors of the 36?
You know, the workers in Enugu State have applauded His Excellency as the most friendly, worker-friendly governor in Enugu State. So
Absolutely.
the friendship will continue, and after we just have to wait for the governors to have their discussions within themselves. After which, these things can take shape appropriately.
Okay. There are other issues. We understand that some time ago, rice were disbursed to the state. I don't know if Enugu State has received its own share of the bags of rice that have been disbursed to states.
We are still expectant.
It hasn't come at all.
It has not come to Enugu State, but we expectant.
Okay, but beyond your expectation, has plans been made on how it will be disbursed?
Well, you will recall that this thing had happened in the past, where palliatives were given to different states. There was not even a finger of protest that was raised against Enugu State because our pattern was quite wholesome, very clear, very clean, and direct. We have a social register which is constantly being updated. And how did we arrive? Excuse me. How did we arrive at the register? There was a committee. This committee included the Reverend Father or the clergy, depending on the area. We also included a Pentecostal priest. We also had councillors, as it were. Then we have PGs of these wards or communities, as the case may be. We also, so about 7 persons, people of integrity from every particular community or ward, were assembled to list out these people who are vulnerable. You know, the meaning of vulnerable could be defined to include those or to exclude those who may be comfortable, even though their names could enter it. I am referring to people who may call themselves widows. There are some widows that are far more richer than some families. So the community would decide who are these people that need these things. So with that social register that we had before, it was very well distributed, these palliatives. I believe the same thing will happen in the case of what we're expecting from the federal government. His Excellency is quite disturbed about the vulnerable ones, and there are so many things he has started implementing in the government to ensure that those who are vulnerable are taken care of. And in time, more things will be done to ensure that their situation is improved.
Okay. Now you're a broadcaster. You actually even stated that you've been into broadcasting for a long time now. I can't go into it.
He's a senior colleague.
He's a senior colleague. Yes, you are a senior colleague. And you know, there is this debate about the traditional media and the new media. You know, bear in mind that they have different channels of operation and different memorandum of operation. If I may make that submission. What are your takes concerning it, and what beyond Enugu State, what measures first do you think is right for the government to employ, either the traditional media or the new media?
Well, it is neither here nor there, as they say it. The broadcast industry has gone through a lot of changes. So is it with the print media and other medium of distributing information or passing information to people. And what you call the traditional media is the one that we all know. The radio, the TV, the print media, these are the basic ones that we already know. Or when you go to the extremely traditional ones, like using the gong to spread message in the villages. But the changing pattern of living and life has come to be that we now have a new media. New media is primarily making use of the internet to distribute information, to distribute the messages that we have to get to the people. Now, of course, it's affecting the new media platform is affecting the traditional media platform. Radio, for instance, was the primary source of information for a lot of people. This has ceased to be the case because a lot of people have their handsets nearby every time. And these handsets portend a lot of opportunities for people. Also, television also became an important part of our. Those days, you were only listening to NTA and probably ESBS, ETV, and so on, and very few of them. I believe that the traditional media would still have their roles to play, but it has gone beyond what they were doing before. People now receive their information, their messages through many sources. When you're talking about new media, you're talking about the Facebook, you're talking about the WhatsApp group, you're talking about the X, you're talking about WeChat, and more than 20, 30 of them, so many of them, platforms, LinkedIn. So when we get there, the next thing is, how do you source your information? Now, the signature television is coming on stream. They can now be received anywhere in the world. Just with your handset, you can tune into signature tuner and begin to watch. It was not like that before. So the new media, I think, is dealing with the traditional media. But the authenticity, the access, the distribution, the cost, they are all in the pod period of decisions to say, which one will I go for? Marketers are also getting interested in it. So interested because if I ask you to advertise this cup, for instance, in your TV station, the cost will be far more than advertising it on WhatsApp. I just snap it and send it across to my X handle, and a lot of people will immediately get to see it. The speed with which there are many factors that could take the decisions of how the traditional media is being overtaken by the social media.
Well, you know, back again on this traditional and the new media, checking credibility and trust, talking about credibility and trust. The traditional media they are established brands with long-standing reputations.
Yes.
And while one can say that the new media has varied credibility depending on the source. And it's also established that for traditional media, they are professional journalists and editorial standards. That's what they employ. But in the case of new media, is potential for misinformation and fake news. And you have also a perceived, they're also perceived as more reliable and trustworthy by some audiences. And for new media, one can say there is trust. The trust often is built through community and influencer relationship. So my question is, with this, how can we move forward? But before you answer that question, we'll go for a break and we'll be right back. This is still Signature Morning, and we've been talking with the Honorable Commissioner for Information and Communication, even though, yes, he said, well, he's not an honorable because he's a broadcaster, but hey, you have to give honor to whom is due. You know, we can add it, honorable, broadcaster, commissioner, you know, so all that fits in the person of Aka is a like some people like to add aka, you know, it dilutes it kind of, you just go, it's undulating. So before we took the break, we were talking about traditional media and the new media, you know, talking about credibility and trust. We understand that the traditional media is an established brand. They are established brands with long-standing reputations, whilst the new media is they have very credibility depending on the source. You know, for traditional media you have professional journalists and editorial standard, but for new media they tend to be potential misinformation and fake news. Now you're saying that new media has come to stay. Nobody's well, I don't think we're doubting it, but when you vary them, which is of a better standard? Because people tend to, you know, for every information that is gotten through the traditional media are verified informations. You understand? A man can, like myself and my colleague Charles, can just come and be what do you call it? Be giving off fake news. You know, so these are verified. So we are now asking, how do you vary it? What's your take as regards credibility?
Well, there's no doubt that when you're talking about credibility, believability, you are naturally going to the traditional media because of the length of training, the checks and balances, the monitoring that is there. But then the question is, the person you are transmitting the information to, what is he making? How is he making use of the information? You know, there was a time, and the time is still here, when fake news is trending. Fake news items fly quite fast, and people make use of these fake news until you debunk them. But the important thing is that the traditional media have people who are trained. Things you cannot do. You can't post some violence on, you can't broadcast it. We call it NTBB. People, pornographic items, and a lot more things. But today, if you open up your social media, you could see a lot of things that cannot be ordinarily consumed. But the fact is that, how do we check all these when it's an all-commerce affair? For instance, Facebook is inviting everybody to become a reporter, an editor, and a medium of information. So you just go there, post something there, and it goes around. When it comes to credibility, it is still very resident with the traditional media. But that does not remove. But traditional media also, some of them get their pieces of information from the social media, and so it could be diluted to be part of fake news. I would use the instance of some of the things trending today, the refinery issue in Nigeria. See, a lot of people give their opinions. Sometimes these opinions gel up to become something somebody believes in, even though it's a fake news. You tell you about who is Dangote, people now explain to him, even when you don't know who he is, you now explain how his refineries, how things are being refined, why the importation from abroad. People give their different opinions. The same thing with this, the trending protest that could happen any moment from now. The public will now disseminate their own information. But if it were on traditional media, the editors will know what is important to go out, what is important to, so that the image of the country will also be protected. The image of the station, the media outfit will also be protected. I believe that the traditional media is more credible. But then you can't slaughter credibility on the altar of the cost and also the audience interaction, because now that we're talking here, we can't have audience to report immediately to what we are doing. But if you are on social media, for instance, you see people reacting as quickly as possible.
We can
Even
actually
though
do
we
that.
can actually do that through telephone.
Yeah.
But if it were social media, you see a lot
It's
of
instant.
very instant.
Mm.
The speed is there.
Do you think
The
that
cost also, okay?
Okay, you come back to the cost.
Yeah.
But do you think there will ever be a time when new media would outrun traditional media? Because of how fast things have become. When you wake up in the morning, the first thing an adult does is first of all to check their phones. Either they're going in that on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, just to check on what's going on before they even think of praying or even eating, or as the case may be. Unlike what it used to be when, radio, like you mentioned, used to be the source. Go on radio and get whatever you want. But do you think the way the things are now, in a couple of years, new media would, outrun traditional media, so much so that traditional media would suffer to the extent of not even getting advertorials on the platform?
The things are moving at a very fast pace. Evolution, transmogrification. A lot of these traditional media, they are also transforming and changing. So I would not think that the new media will totally outrun the traditional media. But it is important to register that as they are also fine-tuning their processes, you see the new media coming into their own space to work. I had already used the example of signature television. Signature television ordinarily would have been one place. You call people to come in, but if you continue doing that, you have people to patronize you. I was talking about cost. The cost of placing advert on traditional media is higher than doing it on social media, social media.
Sure.
So many persons are taking advantage of the social media to advertise to market their goods and so on. Because the distribution of messages is faster, the access is also quicker. We gain access to WhatsApp, just a matter of flipping it open and you see messages coming in.
But don't you think, like you said, the cost of placing advert on traditional media is faster? Don't you think it's because of the credibility? Is higher. Don't you think it's because of the credibility of what it accrues?
Now, if you are a trader, if you sell clothes, for instance, why would you need credibility to flip your items on social media? You place your phone number, they place your goods, and people will start seeing it and say, "Hey, I'll call this person to buy." I'm sure you must have bought 1 or 2 items online.
Okay.
So credibility does not even come in this case. The person considers cost. Credibility is important because, especially when you are getting news that you have to work with from government, from established. So these things are very important to note. Traditional media will still be there, but I hope and wish and pray that there will be an evolutionary trend on their part to develop to meet up social media in terms of speed, in terms of distribution, in terms of access, in terms of cost, in terms of audience interaction.
All right, on a final note, just before we go, you mentioned earlier that the government of Enugu State is trying to move the economy of Enugu from $4.4 billion to $30 billion. That has always been what has been on for a while. Can you just tell us what are the challenges that this government is facing as to doing that, and where is it at this moment?
Okay. The challenges, first of all, the 4.4 billion to $30 billion is something that is fixed to the extent that we can even surpass it, but we can't go below it. His Excellency is determined to achieve that. It's not a tea party, it's not a walk in the park, as they say it. is determined to achieve that. And this determination is based on the fact that everybody must have to be part of the process. He's not going to do it alone. He's going to do it with investors, not only in Enugu, but those who are coming in to invest in the state, and other persons who are also in the state, manufacturers, traders, students, and so on. When we also had reasons to talk about smart schools. This smart schools is very capital intensive. But the meaning of smart school is that we are bringing up people who are going to develop the state in the next years to come, in the next few years to come. Because, of course, you know about Gen Z and Gen Y and the Alpha, Generation Alpha and so on. Some of us were in Gen Y coming into Gen Z. Gen Z, a matter of when did you start to use the new media? When some of us have gone beyond that. So we want to bring up people that are natives of this new media system.
Because of time.
Okay.
The challenges you are
the
facing.
Challenges we are facing is only that people don't seem to move as fast as this government want to move. For instance, when we began to demolish areas, there were a lot of outcries. These outcries were coming because they could not see what His Excellency had in mind. The efforts to make them see fell on deaf ears because, but at a gradual pace now, people are beginning to understand, to cue in, and a lot more. So one of the challenges I would say is people don't appreciate quickly. Naturally, the opposition will also have their own game to play, and confusion could come in that way. But beyond that, we also wish that people would also be part of this process by paying their taxes and knowing that these things are for them. The water processes, the water we want to get into Enugu. You see some people pouring in concrete into the pipelines so that they will destroy some of the items the governor has provided for the people. There was this water pumps we provided in certain places to alleviate the problems of getting water. If you go there, some people have stolen some of the items. These are little things that contribute to making things difficult for.
And there are measures put in place.
Well, there are measures, but you can't be guarding every place at the same time. But we hope that people will continue to appreciate the efforts of His Excellency.
Thank you. Many thanks. Thank you so much for your time. We honestly appreciate your contributions and your input into the session. Right now, we'll go for a short break. We actually appreciated the Honorable Commissioner Aka Ezaka for the time he spent with us. Go nowhere.